What's good, y'all? BeatGenerals.com back with a brand new tutorial. In this week's tutorial, we're going to be taking a look at Swisha. If you don't know who he is, he's kind of the main producer behind Made in Tokyo and that whole sound, so look him up. The guy actually has some really incredible tracks to me, honestly. He's really great at taking, simplistic type stuff and turning it into full sounding tracks that just sound good. It's almost like an elegant trap type vibe, so I really actually like his sound. I didn't really listen to him much until I started doing this tutorial. Then I started going back doing my research, and he has some really cool stuff. So this particular beat was inspired by Whoever by Made in Tokyo, produced by Swisha. So if you haven't checked that beat out, you might want to just kind of get a context of what this tutorial is about. The next tutorial in this series is still looking like it's going to be that Lil Yachty. So if you have other suggestions, please leave a song title and an artist. Don't just leave artists, because people use all kinds of different sounds. If there's a particular beat or something that you think would fit well for part 3 of this tutorial, please leave it in the comments below or on our members only forum at www.beatgenerals.com. Without further talking, let's go ahead and jump into the beat. So the very first thing we're going to add is from Muddy Cup's The Refill Volume 2, which is a bank that's not released yet at www.studiosounds.com, but it will be in the next week or so. So it's a brand new bank, and the sound that I'm going to be using in this is 73 KB Chill Synth Piano. And it's just kind of like a muted EP type sound. You could obviously use electric piano, maybe cut a little bit of the highs, or some kind of mallet type sound, bell type sound if you want to recreate this and get something similar. So basically, I'm going to keep my BPM at 140, and we're going to basically just use 2 chords. So the first one is going to be D sharp, F sharp, A sharp. And this is going to be kind of like that little intro part that you'll hear. And then the next part is going to be C sharp, F, G sharp. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and hold Control and then Shift and drag this over. And we're going to go ahead and just stretch these out slightly. Some along the lines of this, and now we're going to add basically notes in between here. Just have little drops and little things to make it sound almost kind of a little bit more samplish. So make sure you kind of adjust the velocity so things are a little bit quieter, things are a little bit higher. Just kind of get that a little bit more of authentic, almost vintage type sound. It is going to change the sound of this a lot, which we'll see in a second when I play it. I'm just kind of using the scale and just kind of picking notes that work for me. And this also, if you kind of take a look at it, I know a lot of producers, or at least new producers, kind of get caught up on the idea of, I don't really know how to make a chord progression. I can maybe find 2 chords, but I can't go 3 and 4. It gets too difficult or whatever. And when you're starting out, obviously that's something that you're going to get better with over time. But when you're starting out, that can be a difficult type of thing. But if you kind of take a look at this, this is basically just 2 chords. But just by changing kind of the notes up between and how you're going into each chord, it makes it sound different enough to where the average user isn't really going to pick up that, okay, this is just the same thing repeating over and over. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you can find 2 dope chords and they kind of fit together for these kind of style tracks, you can kind of work on more of the little runs in between them and changing those up slightly just to get a kind of more complex sounding sound. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a strum on these. Make sure preserve end is on. And just turn these up slightly to make them sound a little bit more live. And that'll also change the velocity slightly, as you can tell. And then it also helps just kind of make them sound a little bit wider, just because not everything's hitting on the one, so it's a little bit more spread. Do the same thing to this chord over here. Again, these are the settings I'm using real quick if you want to take a look at that. And accept. So this is kind of what I started off with. which doesn't sound bad, but I want the sound to have a little bit more presence. So we're going to assign a free mixer track, which in this case happens to be mixer track 2. We're going to go ahead and throw a reverb on here, just kind of more of a heavy type reverb. So we're going to turn the size up. We're going to turn the decay up to probably around 4 seconds. Just kind of see what that sounds like. That should give us a little bit more of a lingering type feel, since this is kind of a short type sound. It does have a little bit of a delay on it just naturally in Sylenth, but you know, it's kind of a short, more plucked type sound. So this will help give it a little bit more presence and have kind of that lingering tail end to it, so it doesn't just fade out as quick. So here's what it sounds like now. And obviously that tail end is controlled by the decay time over here. So if you want it to be longer, or you can make it shorter. I usually find 3 to 4 seconds is usually plenty. And the next thing I want to do is just throw a parametric EQ on here and just slightly cut the lows. We can kind of see where the sound is playing. All this stuff down here is unnecessary, so we might as well just get rid of it. It'll just help us with the mix later on, so we don't have a bunch of frequencies that are in there clashing or just taking up space when they're not really even being utilized. So that's kind of thinking behind that, and this is what you have. This is what we started with. So pretty simple, has a kind of a cool type feel, has that kind of classy, almost upscale type sound that they have in the original Whoever track by Made in Tokyo. So that was kind of the goal. So let's jump in the next section, continue. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start with our layering. So we're basically going to take pattern 1, Control C, go down pattern 2 to our next Sylenth, Control V, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically get rid of these strum features. And I'm using patch 108 PD Fond Memories from OVO The Dynasty Volume 2 from StudioSounds.com. And we're going to just turn, basically with our sounds, they're velocity sensitive. And then also if there's different features programmed in, like the mod wheel and different stuff will control different parameters inside the VST. So for this particular sound, if you turn it all the way up, this is what it sounds like. So just turning the mod wheel down will give you a little bit more of a muted type sound. So what we want to do is we're going to just kind of set it halfway. Just kind of have a nice little mix. Now the other thing is that these are way too long, so they're going to kind of take up too much space. So what we're going to do is first, let's go ahead and turn them all the way up. And then we're going to go hit Shift and D on our keyboard to get shorter notes. Now, as you can tell, everything is velocity sensitive, so they already sound different just because we've turned up the volume on each patch. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to scale levels and just turn them down slightly, probably like maybe 12% or so. And then I have it assigned to effects channel 3, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of a lot of that low end. Just because we're looking for more of a light, airy type sound. And the next thing we're going to do is just throw a phaser on it, make it a little bit more interesting, add a little bit of texture to it. And this is basically what the track starts off as. Okay, so then after this section is going to go ahead and break into the actual verse. But let's jump in the next section. We want to add a couple more kind of interesting elements to this little section, the intro, if you will. Just make it a little bit more interesting and not leave it really so open, so plain. So the next thing we want to do is we want to add a little bit of perks to this. Swisha kind of reminds me at some parts is like, if you guys remember Cushion Orange Juice by Wiz Khalifa and that kind of whole sound, it was using a lot of kind of 808, just typical 808 percussion type sounds, the bongos, congas, different things like that. So he kind of utilizes a little bit of that in his music as well. You'll kind of hear a lot of just stock 808 type sounds. So to kind of add some perks and some movements to this, that's kind of what I went to as well. So I pulled up this conga sound, which you guys can download in the kit, and here's what it sounds like right now. Then I have Edison loaded up on my main effects channel, and I dragged it in here, and I'm just going to go ahead and detect pitch region just so I know what the pitch is. So it's F sharp, so you just come C, D, E, F, F sharp, right click over the top of it, and now we know it's in tune. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to just add a couple notes in here with this. Let me just put that in here. Okay, and obviously that's out of key right now, so what we're going to do is just move it up slightly to the D sharp. So we have something like this. Okay, so something like that sounded good to me, and then we're gonna just assign a free mixer track and add a delay. Just, you know, this is a nice open track, like I said, so delays and reverbs and things of that nature are gonna go a long way in a nice open track because they're gonna be a lot more noticeable. So playing around with delays and things like that is gonna really kind of help you out in tracks like this. So we're probably gonna use maybe 2 steps and just turn it down slightly, so we have something like this. Okay, so that sounds good. So as you guys can tell, I also have an open hat loaded up. So just a regular kind of open hat that you'll hear in just stock 808 kits. And we're basically just going to use 2 notes with it. So something along the lines of this. Okay, so something like that is cool. So let's jump in the next section. We'll continue building out this track. So to kind of transition it back into our verse, or actually into our verse, this will be our first verse. We're going to just use a very simple kind of pattern. We're going to use this 808 kick tape, which again I provided for you guys in the downloads. And then we're going to just use snare 9 on top of it. And basically this 808, I dropped it into Edison as well. And then just did detect pitch regions, and it came out to G. And then all you want to do is just right click over G, just so it's mapped to your keys correctly. So when you actually play a C or you play a D or whatever, it'll actually be the correct note. So what we want to do is come in here, and we're going to basically, this is kind of what the pattern sounds like by itself right now. Which doesn't sound bad, but I feel like if we just kind of take this up an octave, so CTRL and our up arrow, and then we can just take a shift up to our F sharp, just to a higher type sound, it will sound better. And he uses pretty much for the most part just kind of stock 808 sounds. So these couple sounds are provided for you guys can basically use and reuse them when using this kind of style. Or if you want, you could use obviously the instruments and then switch up the drums, kind of create your own little vibe. But basically this will kind of be how the intro is set up right here, these little 4 elements, and then it jumps into the verse. So let's take a listen to it real quick. And then from here it drops into the verse. So in the next section we'll start covering the drums. So let's jump in the next section and do that.